How you doing? Good morning. So much to do. So much to do. I have a little cough. No, the weed that you buy nowadays is so out there and so dirty. You have to clean it. Sometimes I go through my own process of cleaning the weed. But when you smoke and drink alcohol, alcohol does two things. It slows down the nervous system, the afferent nervous system, which is the reflux portion of the lungs. It slows it down. When you cough, it's like slow motion. The cough is intense because the nerves are like numbed by the alcohol. And then the debris of cigarettes or weed collect, just like ashes collects in an ashtray, but that same phenomenon occurs in your lungs. But because the nervous system, the afferent and peripheral nervous system, has been impaired because of the alcohol, it's difficult then for these particles to come out of the lungs. So it sounds like that sounds. Yeah. That's the alcohol effect of the alcohol, numbing the lungs, and that makes it difficult to expectorate mucus, which is a collection of ash from accumulative smoking. I tell you that to let you know that Virgo here understands my body and the body. So the best thing to clear it up is a lot of garlic, a lot of ginger, a lot of red onion, and cayenne pepper. And then you drink some aloe tea or some Earl Grey to soothe the nerves of the lungs. In 2 or 3 days, I won't have that rail anymore. Well, anyway, it's convenient to discuss that since we are talking about Taurus and Venus in Taurus. Now, let us select our music for the day. uh, that will go with, the explanation of Venus in Taurus. Now, yeah, I was very serious in my last video, and I looked at myself doing it, and I'm like, ew, because I like it this way. That's the real me. But understand that when I do these videos, it's not always me speaking. You all do know that I am a medium and I channel all kinds of different entities. There are people that can do this. So that entity that spoke through me to you concerning Venus and Aries had to be very particular and meticulous, as it will be for the rest of this series, because of it's not like the moon placing or the compatibility and incompatibility of signs. This is more deeper. This is a more deeper analysis because we're dealing with planets that are a little bit more invasive, a little bit more inclusive, and are not as visceral and superficial as they can be when we're dealing with the ascendant and the moon, which is not superficial, really, but it's non-esoteric. And there is an esoteric explanation for the moon, for the ascendant. But that will have to be a whole branch of astrology, which is esoteric astrology. So like I said, I tried to make a blend of the two. But I can't do this with Venus and Mars. It's just too, like I mentioned in the moon phase series, the ego and the personality reaches a certain level of high complexity the further out we go into the planets. Mars, Venus, Saturn, Jupiter, Neptune, Pluto, Uranus. Remember, he sits on that sideways, you know? So, human personality and ego in relationship to the soul becomes far more complex. And it's going to require a certain level of measured flow of delivery of information, which will require my personality to be a little bit more calmer in order that the information becomes clear to you. So I have to put personality aside so that the soul can deliver the message succinctly. And I think that's what occurred when Venus in Aries was created. I don't even remember the date and time because when they come in through me, I lose all sense of time. The bubble is broken, and then they speak through the ethers of where they come from. Okay? Oh, you don't know a thing. You don't know the half of it. So today we are going to talk about Venus in Taurus as it relates to the woman. And I'm going to be going back and forth with a little esoteric and exoteric. And then I'm going to switch and talk about the human male. And I may overlapping, going back and forth, back and forth. Okay? All right. Now, announcements. Um, I am having a seminar, on astrology on August 17th in New York City at my garden. And I would like for you guys to be there because it'll be like a 6-7 hour conference. And I'll have keynote speakers on astrology. And there'll be lots of goodies, drink, and it'll be nice. It'll be $100, and you'll get your chart done and discuss many aspects of what you have heard throughout the videos since you've discovered me or you've seen me on YouTube. And I get to answer your personal questions that day and also give you solutions as to how to strategize for your future. Now, this is big because if I don't do this seminar, then you will have to pay $350 for a birth chart or $150 an hour for tarot reading. In this conference, you get everything you need and within those 7 hours. And then I have a little after party in my apartment, and we can have cocktails with Fernando. And I will be talking more about that, and I will be announcing it on YouTube, Instagram, and all that kind of goody stuff. This is very Venus in Taurus, so it's okay for me to discuss that. Now, let's jump in. Venus in Taurus, just beautiful earth. The beauty of earth. The trees, the flowers, the rock formations. No, the everything about our planet. Even seeing an animal kill an elk. When you watch National Geographic, I love watching National Geographic. Sometimes I cry at the beauty of nature. All the different animals migrating in the African tundra or in the savannah. The Grand Canyon and how the water over centuries created that Grand Canyon. There's so much beauty of our earth. That same beauty and mystery and terror. Because when you see a lion destroy an elk or a moose, it is horrible, but it's terrifyingly beautiful. Because nature encompasses both good and evil. And this is the great cosmic balance. Just like we see explosions in outer space, remember I mentioned that space is a very dangerous place. Just like we see the destruction of stars, the formation of stars requires great destruction. Okay, the agency of Scorpio. Without that, there is then no balance and reforming and causing the balance which Libra as a cardinal sign represents. So we see this same principle when we talk about Venus in Taurus. Now, how do we relate that which I just described as nature, you know, to the human ego and the human personality, and if we're talking a little bit about esoteric astrology, the soul. Okay. Well, first we have to discuss a few things with Aries. With Venus. Venus is in its dignity in Taurus. Remember, she's the ruler of Taurus, and she's the ruler of Libra. But the Venusian principle is expressed in different speeds. Okay, and this speed is earthy when we're talking about Taurus, and airy when we're talking about Libra. So, Venus in Taurus, just as a generic definition, you're dealing with a beautiful home, expensive, and I'm talking about thousands of dollars and up, paintings, fabulous fabric, wonderful fabric, tiles, linen, centerpieces. No, the environment has to be physically beautiful. So too is this physical beauty required in the human being that is born with Venus in Taurus. This reflection of beauty is the desire to have a beautiful body. The physical body is exquisite and beautiful and symmetrical and on the whole 9 yards. Because Taurus rules the actual symmetry of the human body. You know, everything is proportionate and it's symmetrical. And even if it appears unproportionate, there's still a symmetrical beauty behind the physicality of the person born with Venus in Taurus. There is a level of erotic sensuality that oozes out of the person with Venus in Taurus. Um, who can I mention that will embody this in a man and in a woman? Halle Berry, um, Ariana Grande, um, what's this girl? But what's this girl's name? This singer? Uh, uh, oh, she escapes my mind right now. They represent a certain level. Black China. Uh, Kim Kardashian. Okay, Kim Kardashian. Look at her body. Look at her butt. What she's made a lot of money out of showing, right? That is, Kim Kardashian is a Libra. But here we see the Venus aspect of Libra and her physical appearances, because that's the side of her that is governed by Taurus. This woman is a Libra, but she comes across as a physical earth goddess. And her ticket to fame has been her body. And this is expressive of Venus in Taurus. So, my nose. So, understand that this type of physical, sensuous beauty is what enraptures people. Is what makes people go crazy over the person born with Venus in Taurus. There is a level of sensuality and eroticism that is so promised upon looking at the physical body of this woman and all subsequent women like her. That accent the physical body as the prime source of to capture a man. Really men, it has to be through the body, because men are visual creatures, right? So Kim Kardashian got it made, and women like her. So there's great prowess in that. Now, but there's far more to Venus and Taurus than what I've just described. Far more. Now, understand, like I mentioned with Mars and Taurus, is that Taurus deals with the physical five senses. So the physicality of sex, the promise of potential, and the readiness of sex, all that is embodied in Venus as well. But it's more subtle. It's more subtle. There's also great imagination with Venus in Taurus. No, and there's also a sense of a harmonizing balance. There has to be an inner balance with an outer balance. Here we go We hint at the side of the cardinal aspect of Taurus, which is Libra, the other sister or brother, which is ruled by both the planet Venus. Okay? So if the Taurus woman doesn't feel happy from within, no matter how good she may look on the outside, she will be miserable and she will not attract the right partner to her. If she's not happy inside, there will be a disbalance, hint, hint, Libra, in her life and in every aspect of her life. And the one thing that can really fuck her up, and fuck her up good too, and not in a good way, is if she's not having sex. If the woman born with Venus in Taurus is not having sex, no, it's bad. It's bad. She begins to die in the inside. She begins to see life outside of herself as meager, depressing. Bloom, she'll be depressed, frustrated, angry, and she will not have sexual enjoyment. She might even develop issues concerning the vaginal part of her body, like fibroids. You know, she needs a partner that knows how to have sex and not just the penis and doing the do. Because this woman requires every aspect of her body is a potential for sex. Every aspect of her physical body is a sexual organ. The skin is a sexual organ to this woman. You know? The toes, the nails, I mean, everything. The foot fetish. Where do you think that comes from? That's Taurus. That's a Taurus fetish. Venus in Taurus love feet. And kiss and bite. And do all kinds of kinky stuff. Okay? Because it's a physical body. But you know, in China or in Japan, they position the person's body. Right? You've seen that in movies, and the men eat it. That's very Venus in Taurus. Where food and physical pleasures of sex of the human body are seen as one. That's why Taurus has such an appetite. Oh, my decan is in Taurus. All right, so I understand what's said about that kind of sensuality. No, so this is a wonderful thing to be born with that. But then there are liabilities. There are liabilities with this. And here we go. Um, like I mentioned, if she's not having sex and she's not having good sex, quality sex, she can go years without it. Like Virgo. We can go like myself. We can go without sex for years, and not miss it. And then jump right in like we never left it. Because sex is not that important to Virgo. You know, which is funny because Virgo is a very sexy and very sensuous sign. You know, but if we don't really gravitate to sex like that, unless there are other things in the birth chart that show an over-exuding interest and therefore activity in this area for the sign of Gemini, Virgo, which are the least sexual signs of the zodiac. You know, but that doesn't mean that we don't lay down if we have to or if we enjoy it. But it's just an aspect of our lives that it fulfills. It's not the whole reason for living. But sex and the need for sexual expression, it can be a lifetime work for certain people. It certainly has been for Kim Kardashian and for Tyra Banks, the model Tyra Banks. You know, she's in her 50s like I am, and she also made her claim to fame walking down that runway. You saw her, and she made a name for herself. Again, she's a Sagittarius. I met Mrs. Banks, and I tell you, she has a very strong Venus. Oh my goodness. The Venus, you can see the Taurian beauty in this fiery woman. Okay? And that brought her up on the platform. If we're talking about the males, we have to talk about who can I put out there? Who can I put out there? The physical body. And they're not flaunting it. They're just existing. But people are like, and sex and showing themselves being like an exhibitionist is not something that they are aiming to do. And by the way, the exhibitionist, the actual looking in the mirror and looking at a naked woman, you know, that the peeping Tom, that belongs to Virgo, the kinky side of Virgo, but also Taurus and Venus in Taurus, where the person is jerking off looking at a woman naked to the window. No, all those kinds of little activity falls if you have Venus in Taurus. Again, an over preoccupation with the beauty and the energy that's emitted to the physical body when we have Venus express herself this way in Taurus. People born with Venus in Taurus usually keep the same figure. It never, they can have babies, they can get fat, right? They never lose their sensuality. Oh, come on. You've seen pornos where you have real fat women or real fat men laying the pipe or laying it out. That could be just as good as someone who's skinny or slender or even attractive. But they have strong ascendant Tauruses with Venus possibly in these signs, causing them that kind of prowess in the bedroom or even just the appearance. No, all these because again we're dealing with a visually oriented, a visually centered sign. Now, touch and feeling and sound is extremely important. Extremely, extremely important. Okay, one thing also that we have to discuss with the Venus in Taurus is that if her senses are not pleased, then she's not going to respond to you. For the Taurus woman or the Venus in Taurus woman to look at you, you have to be dashing. Remember, key phrase, keynote, the five senses. You gotta look good. Oh, who is that? If you want a Taurus woman or Venus in Taurus woman and you're a guy, wear muscle shirts or wear your shirts open where they can see your chest and you can see your muscles. She's visual. She'll start to fantasize about you. And you gotta smell good too. That's the other sense. Remember, five senses, right? And then when she touches you, hi, how are you? Grab her hand firmly. You know, that'll send jolts to her. Now she knows how you feel by touching you. So with this woman, she's doing checkpoints in her psyche about what about you she likes and doesn't like. This is a woman born with Venus in Taurus. Okay. Now, having said that, because these women are sensually inclined, not sensation oriented, and there's a difference. Aries is sensation oriented, while as Taurus is sensually inclined. That's a difference. But rather though, if this is not understood by the person trying to court someone with Venus in Taurus, they are going to miss the mark completely. Completely. You have to pay attention if you're going to court this woman or a woman with Venus in Taurus. And understand too that once you guys get into the nitty gritty, don't be offended. If she wears you out in the bedroom, you have a great time. She does have a secret, and then she gets up and starts masturbating in the bedroom. I have mentioned that before with Mars in Taurus. Well, the same it's applied with Venus in Taurus, where masturbation becomes very, very important. You know, for the person. It doesn't mean that she didn't like it, that you didn't do the job. It's just that she's so sexually stimulated that she also wants to have total control of her own sensual and sexual responses, aside from the male. That way, she gets to know that if she can stimulate herself without the man, should the man die or leave her, she can pleasure herself and not need no man to do it for her. This is also another psychological reason behind the excessive masturbation that can occur with both Mars and Venus in Taurus. Okay? Now, thank you very much. We are done with part one. Remember to donate. Donate PayPal.me/the people's astrologer so I can continue.